So now we're going to have the last morning conversation, very exciting one. Designers Brenda Equihua and Bárbara Sánchez-Kane will be in conversation with Tanya Meléndez-Escalante about popular culture and fashion. Brenda Equihua studied fashion design at Parsons and founded in 2016 her eponymous brand, Equihua, a forward-thinking Latinx luxury brand born out of folklore and refined artistry. Bárbara Sánchez-Kane is a Mexican fashion designer and artist who resists traditional notions of Mexican machismo, whether it's her unisex fashion label, Sánchez-Kane, or her installations, paintings, performance, poetry, and sculpture practices. All of her works question hegemonic masculinity, the social construction of gender and sexual identity, and the ways each presents itself in daily life. Please join me in welcoming Brenda, Bárbara, and Tanya.
Good morning, everyone. It is my great pleasure to have Bárbara Sánchez-Kane here and Brenda Equihua. And we're going to talk about popular culture, which is a very important topic for many Latin American designers, but that I think both Bárbara and Brenda tackle particularly well in their collections. So the first thing was that I wanted both designers to briefly introduce their work to you. Some of you might be familiar with it, others might be the first time that you're learning about these two brands. And so here on screen, we have an image from Sánchez-Kane. So Bárbara, would you mind speaking a little bit about your work?
First of all, thank you for the invitation. As a brief introduction, I think my work, so this is a presentation, talking about this picture is a presentation of a collection that was presented at Museo del Eco in Mexico City. And I find, like, let's say, the standard way of presentation of fashion, like the archetype of a presentation, is very boring for me. So I've been trying to play with the idea of using that stage to engage more with the people that are there. Like for me, first instance, like going to a fashion show for me, it's always like an open event. I think it's super interesting, like students and people going to this event. So it's using the word macho sentimental is like the slogan of the brand, and explaining what's macho sentimental, seeing every word as an energy. Let's say, subvert the national hero, no? That it's this macho figure, and then that is associated normally with men and masculinity, and then the sentimental is anchored to this woman, no? So taking these adjectives and using the best of them, these energies, seeing as energies, is super important for me to neutralize the charge of it. So for me, like, this is the epitome of, like, the images. No, it's okay. The images. So, like, it's explaining what for me is the macho sentimental on the brand. All these images that you're seeing. So that's a photo shoot, and then that's a Team Walker photo. That's an exposition for Palais de Tokyo in France. And that's another presentation, exactly. It's what giving this, seen as the two words as energies. So actually you see like this like strength and sentimentality all in one picture, and for me it's like trying to subvert that constantly.
And Brenda, and here I'm quoting your website, you have a forward-thinking Latinx luxury brand born of the folklore and of refined artistry. Can you explain how you do this through your work? And we have an image here on screen.
Thank you for coming and for inviting me. My name is Brenda Equihua, and Equihua is the name of the brand. When I think about folklore, I think about community stories that have been passed down. So a lot of the work that we do is about, how do we keep these sort of memories alive, like create new ones and bring them into like not only the present moment, but into the future. And so, like, for example, in this specific image, the way that it's photographed is kind of like reminds me of the movies that I grew up watching with the luchadores, the lucha libre sort of. They have this sort of darkness to them, and in this sort of like kind of a nostalgic feel about them. And we shot this in Los Angeles during Dia de los Muertos. And I was working with a photographer who just kind of like DM'd me out of nowhere, and he didn't really have a lot of experience, but he had a lot of like passion, and I was thinking, like, I'm very curious to find out what happens to work with somebody who's just like a regular person and like see what happens through his lens of taking this like high fashion, high art thing, and like, and what sort of work we can do together through his memory of this, and of this Dia de los Muertos, and my memory of like this and this garment, So it was really cool because we just saw this couple, and we're just like, let's just have them hold this piece in front of the cross, and it like made this really like impactful image. And so like these kind of images to me are like the kind of images that are so powerful that like there's no way that they don't move forward, and that's sort of how I approach the work, is like, kind of tapping into our memories and things that are familiar, and forming new experiences out of it. This image here was from this sort of 1950s shoot that we did. When I think about the 50s, I think about, in magazines and in fashion, I think about white people, like, because that's most of what you see. And it's usually like photographs of like white folks like smiling and like, at a picnic and all that stuff. And you don't really like see the brown and black experience of like them having, like what family and friendship was to people at that time, So this was a shoot of like, just like people of color having this like awesome picnic and having a good time. And this was the end of the shoot where we just kind of wanted to capture everyone in their essence. But that specific shoot was about like reformatting like the memory of, well, what if we were like who we are now in the 50s, and we could capture like that sort of like brown and black joy,
And so, thank you both. This panel is about popular culture, and going back to our first exercise of the morning, which was looking at a dictionary, I found a definition for popular culture, and it's culture based on popular taste rather than that of an educated elite, usually commercialized and made widely available by the mass media. So there are three main aspects that we can extract from this definition. Popular taste, the fact that it's commercialized and widely available, and that it is connected to mass media. Starting with popular taste, how do you both see your fashion drawing from the tastes of the masses as opposed to the educated elites? And I don't remember whose picture I put next, so.
I like the idea. Imagine the ephemeras and the sexiness of working with things that you live with and you see daily. I think that's, for me, the main purpose of these constellations of work I've done. It's like opening this door to the reinterpretation of these objects that we, eat, drink, see, use, daily. So for me, it's like the first picture is from a show, and then like I did this hair of a jar, of a Mexican jar. And so it's something that I had in my house, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna use this, and then I talked to the guy that does the hair. So even like Brenda was saying, like I think collaborations too are super important. So like taking this image and working with the hair guy and to do this, or the condoms in the hair. A lot of my things comes too from memes, a lot of my work. I think it's part of our culture too. Yeah. So this is a meme I found. It is protect yourself. And for me, I just took it and just made it as a hairdo. This was New York Fashion Week, actually my last presentation in New York, called Artisanal Sex Shop. And then that picture, for me it's very interesting, even like how to take an object that cannot be recognizable for a certain area. Let's say taking the plastic chair that you really don't know who even invented, well, I don't know who invented the plastic chair, I don't know, this one, the typical one. So you need this, like, for me, it's like you see it everywhere in the world. And to take it and to put it in a shoe, it was just like a daily exercise. It's what motivates me, even like to keep designing, because it gets boring, very boring. So even that, it's just what gives me joy, like even making fun of it. It's like sometimes we take it that serious, and yeah, and so, see, and then the other one is from a presentation in Mexico City called Clase de Bellas Artes con Sánchez-Kane. And literally, like this glass is just from, I was shopping downtown in Mexico. Even like now, I just came from Japan, and I was like, I don't want to talk to no one. And then I went downtown, and my friend's like, you didn't want to talk to no one and be with no one, and you went downtown Mexico City? Mm-hmm. I was like, yes, exactly, it's what gives me peace. And I went there and didn't talk to no one, but just stared at millions of objects that actually is so interested in my work that I cannot even understand how do they get there. It's something like, you know, it's just there when I start designing.
Yeah, so back to what like sort of Barbara was saying too about recontextualizing things that are familiar. I think that that's something that's very interesting to me. The picture here is of a hat that we made out of manteles. They're like these oilcloth tablecloths that you normally see at like fondas or Mexican restaurants. And so we used that material to create outerwear and hats and accessories out of them. I like the idea of executing things in a way that feels very digestible, because for me it's kind of like the chicken or the egg concept. Like if you didn't know that that object was used for like a tablecloth, is it like which one came first, you know? If you execute something really well, then you're kind of like, like you're kind of stuck in between the two, like, and you form like new memories of each of them, or like an opinion about them. But I think it's really actually fun to use these type of objects, and fun and kind of funny at the same time, right? But like I think my job as a trained artist is to make it like not like funny. That's like I don't like there's a level of like skill that it takes for it to not be like for it to be taken serious, you know. And I think that's what we do in how we execute the pieces.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I threw you a curveball here because these images Brenda had sent to me to talk about how she uses commercially available products to create collections, and this is a widely commercially available product throughout the United States and Mexico, this tablecloth. Yeah. And so, sorry about that, Brenda.
No, that's okay.
and for Barbara, my question was, in terms of widely available products, we had talked about the bucket. You use buckets in, here's more examples of the tablecloth. But you have used, everybody, can you tell us the story about buckets?
buckets. I think that the same thing again is something that it's objects that are very available to you. And for me, it was just going to this dystopic world that we're going. And it's like using like the plastic as like what will happen with all the microplastic that we are actually eating and drinking and like fucking. So it's like this idea of taking a bucket and transform it to this idea. I'm from Yucatan, so Hesmec is the idea of like el bautizo Maya.
Mayan baptism.
Let's say. So you carry the baby like this. So this idea of these protuberancias.
A protuberance?
I was like, sorry. Growing inside your body and just like trying to like get out, but we're still like very consumed about the anxiety of keep creating in this capitalist world. So we extract these like buckets of our body and keep like recollecting. It was this idea for a fashion show. And so yeah, but think again, like now, like for me it's very worrying like what's happening even now. Like if you see this trend of now, like the last collections of Fashion Week, it was like, what is it saying to us? Like, you know, the trend of like denim, you know, like, but the denim is the one that uses more water and we're like, without water in the world. So what is saying to the masses, like this idea of like portraying again the denim and not having like, not a lot of brand has this like, ecological, you know, or it's the process inside, and I'm not like pointing to everybody, but like what is saying to us? Like what is saying to us the use of denim and being like, oh, it's trend again, but what's the backlash of it? So for me, it's very interesting to even analyze that in a, you know, because it's a product that you can like find anywhere, I guess. So.
Yes, and here you have a couple more images of also mass-produced products that you used.
Yeah, but then again, like the first picture is talking about abortion, you know, like it was happening here, and it was like, so I integrate to what is happening politically, economically, sentimental in my life towards my work, so using that as to portray something very like, you know, like banal sometimes, that could be fashion, and like taking that idea and to integrate it more, you know, and it's a hair piece. And yeah, and then like cheese grater too. Cheese in Mexico is vagina, it's a slang for vagina. So I just did a cheese grater shoe to that. It actually was exhibited now, see, in Mexico City, yeah. I like the idea of talking about lucha libre. That is the most homoerotic thing and funny thing that it is. And like taking that idea of, actually this dress is made of like, I don't know, like 8 luchador masks. And you can kind of see it, but you don't see it. I like this idea of not giving anything, like the first approach to things and converting as a dress, you know, because like it's very like macho, like lucha libre, and I just put it into a dress. And these like hair pieces actually like the cuts of the luchador mask, and they're like, I don't know if fighting, fucking, loving, or I don't know what they're doing at that point, at that scene. It's my last show in Mexico City. Yeah, that was called Sánchez-Kaneismo. Yeah, thank you.
And so we're going to move on to the last part of the definition of popular culture, which was mass media. And so here, we're going to look at your connection, Bárbara, with music, that I think is very rich. And do you want me to show the videos first and then you talk? Or how do you want us to do that? Because we have a couple. So we're going to show 2 short excerpts of videos that are relevant to this conversation. So Brenda, you're using in very different ways, or your designs are used in 2 very different musical genres, but also very impactful. Would you like to talk about, and are you wearing the same jacket that was worn by the mariachis in the first video, or is it not exactly the same?
No, this is a new one. Yeah,
okay.
We haven't launched this one.
I had that question stuck in my head.
So music plays a very important role for me. I think like for everyone, right? It's like how, in many ways, how we connect to ourselves and to each other. Like I think a lot about how even like in romantic relationships, like that having the same music taste like can really form like a very strong bond. So I music to me is like very important, and not only just like when I'm listening to something in order to create, but also like with the way that like we name pieces. So like the first video that you saw was with like mariachis and in Boyle Heights, and they were playing this song called La Puerta Negra, which is by Los Tigres del Norte. And so we titled our jacket The Tigers of the North, because we thought it was just like kind of a, like if you know, you know, like that like speaking about like popular culture, you know, it's like one of those moments, like if you know the reference and we say it in English, then it's like you're a real one, you know. We thought it would be really great to you know, have the video with the original, you know, Los Tigres del Norte, but we don't have access to them. So we just did a cover in Boyle Heights. And then the second video that you saw was like the entire video is of Duran wearing this, Shelley wearing this video, this piece, the entire video. And like, it's just been very interesting to see how much crossover we've had when it comes to like the different types of artists that have worn our pieces. So I feel like that keeps inspiring me. These artists up here, which is Bad Bunny and Princess Nokia, I think that they're like two of the most like iconic artists, you know, that like now, because they are so versatile in like their fashion style and like the way that they express themselves. Like they're kind of like don't care what anyone thinks. Like they just, if Bad Bunny wants to wear a skirt, like he'll wear it. And you know, and Princess Nokia, I feel like she's always like, sometimes she's dressed like a tomboy, and other times she's like, you know, like super femme, and I think that's really cool. So music has inspired like me in my studio and also outside of it with the artists that have connected to the work.
Thank you. And in your case, Barbara, you recalibrate logos constantly. And so would you mind talking about that quickly, because we have like 3 minutes left?
I like this idea of taking this pair of sexy legs and just like actually, when I do this process, it's something I was walking to the bank, because the first one is a bank logo from Banamex. And then after I was thinking, like, because Banamex is like what's gonna happen with the collection of art of Banamex when it's sold, you know, like all this art collection. And I just think it's like the integration of this logo into other logos is something like I see like this transformation that we need to do, like in energy-wise, and you know, like nothing is static, and putting names to everything, and like trying to define things, but it just you know, it's a constant cycle of change, and I try to see my work and my life and everything like that in that philosophy, if I can say it, like, and yeah, and then the second one. No, it's not a logo, it's just my logo. And Cara Lilies, I'm just obsessed with. And then the third one is Holanda. It's the Holanda.
And the ice cream?
This ice cream is the logo in a heart, in the belt buckle.
And in the next slide, this is
it's
also
the same.
Banamex.
Oh, it's the Parisina. So I don't know why, like at the beginning, like all my fabrics are get from downtown Mexico. I don't know what this idea of like a lot of designers are like, oh, they come from Paris or I don't know where, like somewhere very expensive. They come from downtown Mexico. And for me, my first collection was actually sponsored. Not sponsored, I say sponsored, but not actually, I wish. To Parisina, that is like the local supplying stores for, you know, everybody. It's just there. You can buy, you can find like a granny buying something and then you're like buying fabric there, or, you know, like it's a mix of everything. So it's reclaiming that logo, and it's una oda, no? Oda.
an ode to the Parisina.
It was my love letter to Parisina saying thank you for this available fabric for me to do my first collection.
So Parisina is like the fabric store that you'll find in the smallest village in the largest city, and as Barbara said, like a granny.
It's like a
You're like talking designs with a granny. You're like, yes.
Don't you love this ribbon?
Yeah, I like this merch of everything.
Yes, and my last question, which we're going to have to like run through, but I love Brenda's images are really worth showing, is how you both draw from your heritage, your Latinx, Chicana, Mexican American heritage, and your Mexican heritage, Barbara. And so these.
Oh, so these images were, I think, more tied to like the popular culture concept. One thing about Mexican culture is like, we're really funny people, you know? We have a really amazing sense of humor, but we're highly emotional people. Like, you can go to a Mexican party and it starts off fun, everyone's having a good-ass time, sorry. And then, like, at the end of the night, everyone is crying and drinking tequila, you know, and telling each other that, you know, I love you and all this stuff, you know? And so, like, I feel like my work represents that. That's why it's kind of all over the place. Like, sometimes I'm, like, crazy talking, like, political stuff, and I'm, like, super passionate, and then I'm like, oh, and this, like, hilarious thing, you know? So these pictures are of, like, I mean, I see myself not as a participant of, like, meme culture. I would be doing that even if I didn't have a brand, you know? So these are some things that I photoshopped that were very much of, like, the moment, you know? The Simpsons image is photoshopped with our garments on it, but it's usually just, like, you know, he's just, like, cuddled up in blankets. And then, I mean, who doesn't remember the Tiger King, you know? And that was our tiger jacket, so I kind of just photoshopped that together. And, like, one of my most liked memes is this. Who is this little guy again? What's his name?
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda. Yeah, Baby Yoda. I won't tell you, like, the full story of how I came up with that, but I was definitely on a good one, you could say. And I was like, everyone that knows what that means, I was really on a good one, like, really. And I was like, I have this really cool idea, and the person that was there was like, what are you talking about? And then I put it together. I'm like, I just have a feeling people are gonna love this. And then people were, like, going crazy over it, just because, like, it's like the coziest version of that moment, you know, for Baby Yoda to be in a cobija, you know, coat, like. And then, yeah, and then I love AOC, and I incorporate a lot of, like, political things into my work. I think she's awesome. And so I actually wanted to send her these hoops, and they wrote me a letter saying that they can't accept it. So I was like, you know what? I don't care. She's wearing them. I'm going to Photoshop her in them. So that was, you know, it looks pretty believable, you know? And then people were like, I can't find the cobija coat in the pants in the app. They were looking for them because I posted this up, and I was just, like, tricking everyone to thinking that there was actually an option in the emojis. So, and then we remember the Bernie, like, mitts moment, you know, and then this is from one of my favorite movies, Goodfellas. This is, like, a guy in the movie who is, like, he's a salesman. And this was part of, like, his advertising, and he's like, it's called Maury's Wigs. He's like, Maury's Wigs, or whatever, and he throws himself in the pool, and I was like, oh, this is, like, a cool way to, like, you know, have people email our sales, you know. I don't have a Maury, but I'd like to have one.
And this brings us back to Barbara. So you have a few images left.
Well, this strap-on was happening. I did this piece at the beginning of COVID, and for me, it was like using something. Obviously, it's very literal, like distance. Let's say taking a meter. I think the sexiest, like, shops are like hardware stores. Like, could be like all day there. It's like the best sex shop that exists. So yeah, it was the idea of incorporating a daily object, and yeah, and making this idea about talking about something about the distance of not being with my lover at that time. So it could be something like that, sentimental. And then the first picture was actually in the ICLA. It's called Moctezuma Revenge. This idea of like taking water and making Americans drink it. Nobody drank the water of the performance. It was a performance. So it's the idea of this Minotauro kind of god, you know. So I did these pants that are the representation of that. So that's a picture before the performance. And then another picture, it was one installation called Preta Patria, presented last year. Just taking like a figure that actually is very present now in our country, that is the military force, and subverting it. And so in the first gaze, let's say, of entering the room, you see like this uniform and this idea of what's been like the hierarchy of being the military system. And then in the back part of it, you see these lingeries in the back part of the you don't see it there, kind of in the legs, in the back part of the mannequin, let's say, of the pole, the flagpole. But yeah, and then that's a family portrait. My mom didn't like it, but it was a family portrait called Ike Sánchez-Kane. So it was like, my mom family is from Texas, and then my dad is Mexican. So this idea of like representing what my mom means to me and then my dad means to me, and I'm in the middle. You don't see the picture, but I made a mold of my face, and then I'm obsessed with Polly Pockets and tiny things. So in my head there was this Polly Pocket of the collection I presented, you know, a couple of months before this sculpture. So for me, it's like my parents protected my dreams, because obviously I would not be like doing what I do if I didn't have the support of like family. For me, like family is the first thing that comes towards my work, towards my practice, like this like, comfort of like creating. And then that's like incorporating like to like boxing and how to like take that daily object and like destroy it and reconstruct it again and see what's happening. So I was in my student, I had this couple of gloves that I found in a Goodwill in LA, and then I just like, they were there, and I was probably bored or something, and I just tried to like take this object and completely like chew it as a dog, you know, and like reconstructing it again, pasting it all together and doing a jacket. It's wearable, a jacket, so yeah.
Well, if you would join me in thanking these two wonderful women.